So tell me, the scariest thing I think for most aspiring entrepreneurs or people who want to have the lifestyle business is the first few steps.
Yeah.
It's not, everyone can imagine what it'll look like 5 years from now, me being able to travel all over, but it's that first, what do I do now? So you leave your job, the thing happens, you submit the report, you leave your job, what did you do?
Well,
what happened?
When I started the blog, I knew that I was going to have to start making changes. So I just bought, my dream car, the car I'd wanted for a while. Like, I still had some, consumer debt. And so it's like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to get rid of the car. Like, I can't afford the car payment, the insurance, the maintenance.
So you were preemptive. This is like preemptive
So
strike.
pretty much as soon as I started the blog, I was like, you know what? I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to start taking the steps to make sure it does happen. So I did that. What else did I do? I started the blog knowing that could parlay into an internet business. So I started learning the skills to be able to do WordPress and basic HTML and stuff like that. I started saving up money. I tried to adjust my spending so that I'd have...
And reduce your overhead?
Reduce my overhead so I'd have a little bit saved up when I finally did follow through with that.
Nice.
And it finally got to the point where I was... actually there was one thing that pushed me over the edge is Chris's book, The Art of Nonconformity. He told me he was going to write about me in it in August of that year. So at this point, I hadn't left my job. I knew nothing about going to Thailand. I hadn't sold my car. And so he's like, you better sell that car, otherwise I'm going to have to rewrite the book.
Oh my gosh.
And so when I heard that, I was like, all right, I got to do something.
I got to live this now.
I got to actually do it. And so to be able to, by the time you finish writing the book in February of this year, have sold the car, quit the job, moved to Thailand, and started a successful business, I mean... that's pretty cool. I would have never expected that to happen when I first left in September of last year. So
and so when you left, you took all these preemptive steps, which I think is brilliant. And I think anyone out there listening, you have to take those. You have to believe it's going to happen before it actually happens. Right. But you leave. You leave. What did that first week or two look like? What did you sketch down on paper? What were you like? How am I going to make money? How did you?
When I left, it wasn't quite as happy, and the terms were a little bit different than I expected them to be. And so at first I was like, whoa, holy crap, what's going on? This is weird. I don't have to go to work today. And I was a little lost because I wasn't sure what was next. But then I started pursuing things. It was the day after I left that Chris offered me a job as his affiliate manager. He's like, this isn't going to solve all your problems, but I'll pay a little bit of money to help me out with this. And that was because of the relationship I built and starting to, know this was the route I wanted to go down. 3 or 4 days after that, right after I posted, I think it's one of my most popular posts to date called My Last Day, which is all about my last day at the job.
I love that post, by the way. I just got to say it. It's an awesome post.
I got an email from Dan Andrews of the Tropical MBA, and he said, I've got this opportunity for someone. I think you're perfect for it. You should come check it out. And that was... basically he'd pay me a little bit of money to come out to Southeast Asia and work with him. And he'd kind of teach me how to, build a business and, work on his websites. And so I jumped at that opportunity. It was very little money, and it was, going out to Asia to meet a guy I didn't know, but I knew that, something was going to happen. And so when I saw that opportunity, I was like, you know what, this may work, it may not, but I've got to take the chance.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier that I did, because that's been one of the most fantastic experiences I've had to date.
And let me ask you, because you're getting into premium content, and you had a business model in your mind. So you had, because of your blog, you got 2 opportunities straight off, which is awesome.
Right.
And you also had in your mind what your business model is going to look like, how you're going to bring in revenue. So you got 2 streams. What did your business model look like? The things that you were sketching down on a sheet of paper.
So I knew, I wanted to be able to make my living doing a variety of different things. I didn't want to rely on a single paycheck anymore. I didn't want to rely on one employer. I wanted to be able to make money on my own terms doing stuff that I like to do. And so one of those things was this book that I started writing the day after, or maybe a week after leaving my job, called Overcoming the Fear of Uncertainty. And so this started out as, a free manifesto, 5,000 words, and it started evolving. Part of the thing is I realized, I hadn't overcome all my uncertainties yet at that point. I still wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make this, thing work, if I was going to be able to work for myself. I figured I might go to Thailand, come back in July, and have to get a real job.
Yeah.
And so it was while I was in Thailand and I realized that this was a viable business model, and I learned enough to actually make this happen, I started really cranking out content to try and make this happen. And then this thing just grew into a monster. So then it was going to be an ebook, and it turned on to a full-on membership website, because I had no other way to distribute all the content that I had written.
Wow.
So it's like 3 ebooks in one. I've got a bunch of interviews, and it's all geared towards helping people overcome their fear of uncertainty to make the changes that they can make happen in their life. So there's a lot of people that want to start their own business and they don't know how. They can't quite get over that hurdle that's like the what ifs and all those kinds of things. And so this helps them break down those fears into smaller actionable steps to actually accomplish the stuff they want to do.
That's cool. And you set it up where you go, you pay for this, and then you have access to all the
so
content.
it's a one-time fee of $47, and you get access to that for life, all the updates. And so I'm actually in the process of creating a new product. So that kind of deals with all the higher level stuff, getting over the fear. It's like, okay, well, once you've gotten over the fear, then what? Then how do you start the business? And I talk about that a little bit in this guide, but the next guide, which is going to be, I believe it's going to be a part of the same website. It's going to be, I think, free to all the people that have already bought this last guide.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to be called Location Rebel. And so you guys are actually the first people I've talked to.
That's
about
awesome.
This.
We got the exclusive scoop here at Rise.
But it's going to be all about how to create, location-dependent business in 6 months. I'm going to use a case study of my friend Ryan, who saved up $30,000 to take a world trip. His world trip's almost over. He's got $1,000 left, and he doesn't want to get a real job. So I'm going to use him, and I'm going to say, watch, I'm going to take this guy with $1,000, and I'm going to turn him into a location-dependent entrepreneur in the next 6 months.
Oh my God!
And so you got the case study.
Sure.
It's going to be a full program, every way I know how to make money, online or while you're living abroad or whatever it is. And it's just going to come at it from a really practical, realistic mindset.
So when you launched, we'll just go right into business model because I want to help people as much as possible. So this is premium content. You have basic content which is on your blog.
Right.
You've got your readership and you're building that community, and you pretty much assume that a portion of that will convert into premium content.
Exactly.
Purchase. When you did that, did you have other strategies like marketing strategies, or did you just kind of launch this, put it on your blog, and say, you know what, let my readers take it from here?
It was the first time I'd ever put out anything premium, and I could have been a lot smarter about it. It's all kind of, you learn as you go along.
Yeah, sure.
But I've made a lot of connections in the community. So I talked to a lot of people on the day it came out. I had a lot of support. I had a lot of reviews. I gave out some free copies to people of influence to have them write about it. I did not launch with an affiliate program. Mm-hmm. So I did not pay anyone when I first launched to market it, and that was a big mistake. Had I done that, had I given them incentive to promote it and to do a good job with it, then I think that sales would have been much higher, the influence would have been much higher, and so I launched that after the fact. And I think that's one key thing I've learned going forward, is that getting as many people involved as you can is ultimately going to make you a lot more successful.
Right at launch.
Yeah. And so that's one big lesson I learned. And aside from that, I just told a lot of people about it. It was on the blog. I mentioned it in blog posts. And, I also understand that this isn't something for everyone. There's a lot of people that are like, why do I need you to tell me how to get over my fears?
Sure.
But I think a lot of those people could actually get value out of it if they actually ask themselves. It's like, you could probably do it on your own, but are you going to?
Yeah, sure.
And if you're not going to, then maybe you should check this out.
For $47, it's kind of a steal, yeah.
So...
what about the importance of message? One thing that I love about your site is that it's very specific. It's not just, this is my blog, come here and read about the general trappings that I have to say.
Right.
You're very deliberate in your message. And what do you, for someone starting out, like, how should somebody be that niche and say...
Well, it's tough to say. I go back and forth a lot on whether or not I should be that specific. Maybe I should be more general. I shouldn't, say this is what I'm doing or this is what's going on. But one of the things that I think is most unique about my site, and I think could help a lot of people to follow this model going forward, is that you look at when I started and I was like insecure. I had no idea what I was doing, and you can see that every single step along the way. You can see me go from totally clueless to I'm quitting my job to what do I do? Oh, I'm going to Thailand. To
I got my own business now.
Now I've got my own business. I'm traveling the world. Like, it's awesome. And so, I use that to kind of, show people. It's like, it doesn't matter who you are or what position you're in. Like, you can make this happen.
Sure.
And so I think being that open and giving people that background and, giving people a way to connect. I think a lot of people can relate to what I'm doing. They sit in their cubicle all day and they read my story and they're like, hey, I can do that. Whereas if I wasn't so personal about it, then they'd be like, oh, this guy's, some... lucky, fell into it or whatever it is. But
Sure.
you can see every step and say, no, he's a normal guy and he just, took the steps necessary to do it, that makes it repeatable. And I think that a lot of people are going to start to realize that. So
what about that guy or girl sitting at their desk right now? They're watching this interview, hoping that their boss doesn't look over their shoulder.
Yeah.
What's your piece of advice? I mean, if you can give them 2 to 3 tips and say these things are things that you got to do right now, what would they be?
Number 1, start a blog. I say that over and over on my website, in my guide. I've got a whole book on how to start a blog to facilitate change. I think, starting a blog, do it in 3 months. Really go after it. Treat it like a second job. Connect with people on Twitter, like on other blogs, send emails, find people that you can relate to, and get a hold of them and ask them questions. I think that all the things that go into a blog, it's not just the writing, it's not just about bringing people to your website. Yep. It's all the things that go into building a successful blog. It just gives you the knowledge and the courage and the confidence to move forward. And it starts opening up doors that you wouldn't have ever expected would happen. Yeah. And so I think that is the number one thing you can do. Number 2, just realistically ask yourself, what do you want to do? If you're sitting at your cubicle and you want something else and you don't know, then it's going to be really hard to get the courage to actually make any changes. And so that's actually why I started the blog, is because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so the more I wrote about it, the more clear it got. And that's where I found myself where I'm at today. So I think just having a clear goal in mind, knowing what you want, and then using a blog to get there, I think those are, if you can do those 2 things, you're going to be really successful starting out.
So what's next for you? I mean, 2011's coming up. Like, what do you got going on?
So I got a lot of stuff going on. I've got another website. It's a photography website. One of the things I talk a lot about is following your passions. You were kind of saying whether you make money at it or not. Yeah. I freed up the time to be able to do some of this stuff, and so I'd like to be able to turn some of those passions and hobbies into businesses. So right now I'm writing an ebook called 101 Ways to Improve Your HDR Photography. It's basically a beginner's guide to HDR.
That's awesome.
I'm going to be launching Location Rebel early next year, as I just mentioned. And I'm considering going to Honduras for a month in January. I'm going to go live on the island of Utila, get my scuba certification.
Dude.
Hang out. So that's one option. I may go back to the Philippines at some point and work with Dan a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just keep exploring places I haven't been to. So
that's cool.
We'll see. Keep pushing forward.
So where can people tell people where they can find you on the Twitters, on the blog, and the new medias?
So you can find me on Twitter at Sean Ogle, SeanOgle. My website is the same name, www.seanogle.com. If you can't remember that, location180.com might be a little bit easier. So it takes you to the same spot. You can find my premium product towards overcoming uncertainty at overcomeuncertainty.com. And if you go to any of those sites, you should be able to find me. My email's on there, so if any of you guys have questions about what I'm doing, how I've done this, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. So just go on there and drop me a line.
So that's our interview. Listen, guys, Sean's a really cool guy, and I've seen the way he interacts on his blog and connecting with everyone. You need to follow this guy, and you need to look at the things that he's doing, and he's very approachable, and we can all learn a lot from him. So make sure you follow him, and we'll see you guys later.